Good afternoon, Sir Ashish Chhawchharia ji, being partner and the national head and restructuring service head of Eastern Zone that Grand Thornton Bharat. So we are looking forward to hear you, sir, words of wisdom, and myself, chartered accountant Ghosh here, that visiting macroeconomics faculty of St. Xavier's Business School, Calcutta. And so I won't take that much time. So definitely, there's all of us definitely just looking forward that the nitty gritty of that IBC, that insolvency, bankruptcy, and the code, and also that IBBI and the resolutions and all the key note terms. So please, sir, you, I think, is the entire the podium is yours. Please join us, sir.
Thank you, and
Yeah.
very good afternoon to you and all the viewers who have joined in. They have taken out time from their busy schedules to be here today and listen to us. We hope that you will have some takeaways from this session, and I look forward to discussing with you around my learnings and my experience of being a practitioner in this space for the last almost 8, 9 years. So thank you for the opportunity to engage with us. Thank you.
Sir, initially, if you just light on the that success stories, that IBC. So
Sure. So I think, IBC has now been in place for almost 8 years. I think the journey that we have traveled is actually much longer than that. I think the maturity of this particular regulation or law has been far more than what any new law in any country traverses in this period of time. I think with the rich from NCLT, NCLAT, the Supreme Court, I think the journey we have traveled far more than what the calendar indicates. And just to take you back, why was this law introduced? Challenges that our country was facing with the twin balance sheet problem. For years, we didn't have any, structured insolvency resolution mechanism, and then the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code was promulgated by the then government. And since then, I think we have made significant strides and improvements in this whole regime. The ease of doing business, strengthening of the credit rates, and significant enhancement of the recovery rates of the financial creditors. All this has been possible only because of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. I mean, this whole evolution, this has been remarkable as far as the impact of this code. It has been rated as the most landmark reforms in our country, along with GST, which came around. When I say reforms, I mean the economic reforms, of course. But this was promulgated around the similar time as the GST, and we saw that the impact that this has had on all the financial institutions, the culture of borrowing. This is unprecedented. In fact, in the rankings of World Bank and the ease of doing business, this has helped us leapfrog several notches, and there's a good reason for that. I think the whole credit system of any economy works on the basis that there will be some honest business failures. How does one come out of it? How do you reallocate credit to more sort of useful, better use? I think this is somewhere we were facing a lot of logjam. And since IBC has come in, I think despite, I'm not saying it doesn't have faults, it doesn't have a improvement, but since this has been promulgated, what we have seen is, significant improvement in so many parameters. by addressing all the financial distress and the NPAs, the code has actually had a indelible impact, I feel, on the country's banking sector, and it actually redefined the whole debtor-creditor relationship. In the past, creditors had no teeth. Let me put it this way. There was an imbalance in the way the whole credit system worked. But this board actually, when it came and it changed that, there's a much more leveling of,
Right,
the
sir.
intercreditor relationship. So I think the impact of this is now what we are seeing as, significant improvement in the bank's balance sheets. The economy is doing great. What used to be a twin balance sheet problem is now being called the double engine of growth. The balance sheets
Right.
of the corporates are strong. The balance sheets of the banks are strong. So I think I would attribute a lot of this, not everything, but a lot of this has been an outcome of the IBC.
Right, sir. Sir, what is the key enactment that under IBC, that since that during the year 2024, what is the key enactment in place? 2023 and the 2024. Any industry specific, particularly the real estate?
So, thank you for that question. But if you go back a little bit and look at some of the, statistics on this and IBC, while there have been a significant number of cases which have been resolved, almost 3,500 corporate debtors have been rescued under IBC. About a third of which has been on account of resolution plans. About 1,200 or so has been on account of closure of any of these cases by way of appeal or review, and another 1,100 or so which has been closed due to withdrawal. But when you look deeper into that, one sees that the number of cases which have not been resolved, where there are significant delays and where there are no resolutions have been found, is actually on account of real estate cases. I mean,
Oh,
this continues to remain one of the most difficult sort of sectors for resolution. Now, over the years, there have been, the government, the regulators recognize this issue, though there's not an easy problem to resolve. But they have recognized this issue, and periodically, various changes have been brought in, not least of which was the very prompt, amendment that was brought into the code way back in, I think, 2018 itself, which gave the status of financial creditors to the home buyers. But that was not enough. There were various challenges which were continuing to impact the resolution process of real estate, insolvencies. So, as recent as February, which is last month, more amendments have been made to enhance this process, to enhance the ease of resolution. Some of the changes, one of the issues that under real estate cases that was being faced by the home buyers is that they would have paid substantial amounts of money for their allotted houses. Many of them were substantially complete, but they were not getting either possession, they were not getting registration. Under citing, some of the cases they were citing moratorium. So there was no clarity as to whether these houses, which were, let's say, partially or mostly complete, could they be handed over? Can registration be done during a CRP process? Because a moratorium under Section 14 was something which, restricted, or in the opinion of some of the practitioners, there was a restriction. So they came out with an amendment stating that after obtaining approval of the COC, and if the home buyers are willing to pay whatever the obligations were, if there were any pending obligations up to that date, the RP could now hand over possession, and also handing over possession of apartments or buildings to the home buyers. So this gave the home buyers a lot more confidence about this whole IBC process, because there was a distinct fear. So I am myself, me and my team are handling one such case, which is for real estate allottees, and
right.
we found significant distress because the home buyers are not aware that what this IBC, we don't expect them to be aware what IBC in detail is about. Also, we saw cases. Another change that was brought about is with respect to appointment of facilitators. So while there was already a concept introduced of appointing authorized representative of the home buyers, but in large cases where there are multiple projects, it was becoming very difficult for one authorized representative to represent the case, represent the interests of all the home buyers. So they made an amendment recently whereby there were facilitators is now being permitted for subclass of creditors. Again, this is aimed towards ease of doing business. One big challenge on real estate cases has been, the role or the involvement of the competent authorities, like Noida or Huda, people, who have given land for these real estate projects under some kind of long-term lease arrangements, etc. These parties were not finding place in the COC or any discussions around the resolution piece. And this was leading to a lot of challenges and delays. Again, an amendment has been brought in recently whereby the participation of these competent authorities has been permitted to come in this COC. And this would help, in the resolution process. Also, the RP is now required to actually provide a detailed understanding for real estate cases, what is the status of development, what are the approvals in place, what is the status of the project. He has to provide details of that to the COC within 60 days of commencement. So a lot of these changes which have been brought in now are actually aimed towards helping home buyer cases to move forward, and it is hoped and expected that this will help in the resolution process.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Sir, another thing, so far as the micro and the small medium industries are concerned, that what do you think that where are they placed from IBC that this court perspective? So where they stand as on date, micro, small, medium industries basically. So how does it facilitate? So if you just light up, sir.
So with respect to MSMEs, I think there has been mixed opinions, mixed views of how this has, whether IBC is best suited for MSMEs, and given the size and the challenges that MSMEs face, are they best suited to get a resolution under the IBC? So I can talk from two aspects here. One is the actual resolution process itself. If a particular MSME is already facing some stress or insolvency situation, is this code designed for its resolution in the best possible manner? The answer is, again, yes and no. There are provisions which have been brought in, like, pre-packaged insolvency process. Unfortunately, that amendment which came in almost more than 3 years ago now, I think that has not yielded in a great beneficial outcomes. And there are many reasons for that. And I think the government recognizes those. And there are sort of amendments and changes being thought of how to address that. But some of the reasons why this has not happened is also, because there's a high cost. There's a high cost during this insolvency. And, another big reason is the stigma of insolvency. The moment, an IBC process or a CRP process commences, for MSMEs especially, it becomes very challenging for obtaining credit. The customers will flee. They will start looking at alternate. Okay, I'm told that there is a network issue at my end. Let me see how to stabilize that. Apologies for this. It was working just fine when we tested it a few minutes ago. Is it better now, Kausik? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, yes. Very much audible. Please, sir, please carry on, sir.
Okay. No, I just got a message saying that there's some network issue. So apologies, viewers, if you're having some challenges. So as I was saying that, there are various operational challenges that if a resolution is being sought by MSMEs through the IBC process. And as I said, the risk of losing control, the stigma faced by MSMEs when an insolvency resolution process starts. This has led to people wanting to avoid this and look at alternate options. However, on a macro basis, I would say the benefits that has accrued to MSMEs is very wide. And this is for example, there's improved access to credit. I think, there is because of the enhanced recovery rates the banks have seen during this IBC process, or as a result of the IBC code, they are much more amenable to lending now. And the whole reduction of the NPAs in the books, the access to credit has improved substantially after the enactment of IBC. So while there are certain benefits which accrue to MSMEs as a result of IBC, but at the same time there are some unique challenges if a company is facing stress, if an MSME company is facing stress.
Okay, thank you, sir. So one more thing that regarding the challenges, that faced by IBC. IBC always aims for the time-bound resolution, but sometimes that it exceeds 330 days as stipulated. And particularly, so far as the infrastructure is concerned, particularly the IT infrastructure is concerned. So what do you think, that how to just overcome in the days ahead and the future aheads?
Let
So
me
far as
tell
the
you something.
timeline is concerned and that infrastructure is concerned. So bridge between the timeline and the infrastructure. So we can leverage the IT framework that is there. Please, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me tell you that the regulators, the government is very well seized of this matter. They
Right,
have
sir.
they're very well aware. You see, even if you talk about the timelines that are prescribed in IBC, you mentioned 270 days, 330 days. There are within that there are various timelines, and there's a model time code which has been prescribed. But we have seen factually that there have been substantial more delays as compared to that. Government is very well aware, and there have been detailed studies being carried out to understand which points are these delays happening. So if you break it
Okay.
down into pre-admission, during admission, post-admission, resolution plan stage, approval stage, and the various interlocutory applications which are filed by the NCLT. There's been detailed studies being carried out to address this. Yes, technology is definitely a solution which is being considered. A lot of steps are being taken for that. It is believed that not every reason can be addressed by insolvency by technology, but it can assist and go in a long way, especially when you talk about the admission stage, how this can be speeded up, how the capacity of the courts can be enhanced. We have already got over 30 benches which are 30 courts which are operating in CLT. And while there's a lot of criticism that unfortunately our courts face, that there are delays in the courts, but if you see some of the actual statistics, you'll be surprised that how well the NCLTs and the NCLATs have worked in this time frame, given the constraint that they face, how much of adjudications they have done. It is it is actually stupendous. It is amazing that the amount of work that they have been able to achieve. The improvements can be by removing, I feel, some of the procedural areas. There are lots of times when one needs to go to the NCLT for things like appointment of insolvency professional, appointment of AR, constitution of COC, extension of timeline within the prescribed 180 to 270 days. Some of those things I believe could be, the load on the NCLTs could be reduced, and which would really enhance the speed. And the second thing is, the second area where we find delays happening is a lot of frivolous applications. And the courts could consider imposing, some heavy costs if there are frivolous litigations being found, which
Okay, sir.
causes significant delays. So I think speed, yes, definitely needs to improve, because when there are delays, there's degradation in value of the asset. There's lower recovery for creditors. All in all, it defeats the purpose. But despite that, our overall recovery is exceeding 30%. The recovery rates are more than 30% of the admitted claims, 31% almost up to December, which is quite a
Right.
substantial improvement compared to what it used to be in the past. So I'm very positive and hopeful that this will continue to improve.
Exactly, sir. Uh, Sir, regarding one more thing that very tricky thing, rather I should say, that regarding the cross-border insolvency, the cross-border transaction. So, if you just throw few words, that regarding the cross-border insolvency position.
So, Kaushik, I think maybe you may be aware, and maybe some of the viewers may be aware, that I was fortunate to have been involved in the first cross-border case in India under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code.
Okay, sir.
This case was in the landmark case of JTVs, where you know there was an liquidation, a liquidator appointed by the Dutch courts in Netherlands, and that
Yes, sir.
was actually preceding my appointment as an IP in India. And there were conflicting sort of positions initially, which was taken by the then Dutch liquidator, and what my duties and role are within the IBC, and to protect the interest of all the creditors of this company. But we found a solution, and the solution is become a landmark solution, which has been available, and it's there all over for any of the viewers to read how this was done by a cross-border cooperation protocol. However,
Okay.
having said that, I would say that that is not the answer. That is not a panacea for all problems, because this is a highly complex case. When you talk about cross-border, it has big macroeconomic implications,
Okay.
between economic and diplomatic relations between countries. There is something called the Ancestral Model Code, which various jurisdictions in the world have signed up to. India has not yet exceeded or signed that up to that model code. India has constituted had constituted a committee which has also submitted its findings and submitted its recommendations. This has been one of the topmost subjects in the minds of the regulators and the government, how to deal with cross-border situations under insolvency. But as on date, uh, there has
Yes,
been
sir.
no amendments or changes that have been brought in.
Okay.
There are various challenges around this, which is the center of main interest, who takes precedence, whether it's the Indian RP or who has control of the assets, will moratorium apply in foreign assets. So the number of issues around cross-border insolvency situations, which many of which are addressed, or at least there's a directional guidance in the ancestral model code. Date, we do not have any legislation around this. There are some enabling provisions which are existing for any bilateral sort of arrangements between countries. But I would go as far as saying that as on date, that's probably not sufficient. So more work needs to happen around this. And I know that there's a lot of work happening in the background.
All right, sir. And sir, one more thing that so what is the recovery rate is concerned, you know, that as on date, that what is the recovery status in percentage and the resolutions, that application pending as on date. So if you, sir.
So as I mentioned earlier, you see, if you talk about strictly from a recovery point of view only, and that is not the only measure to be used, but if we consider recovery as a one of the metrics to consider, I think at
Right, sir.
31.4%, it is a substantial improvement over the prior recovery rates prior to IBC. This is 31% of the admitted claims, mind you.
Okay.
Admitted claims includes principal, interest, penal interest, and various loadings on that. So actually speaking, maybe the recovery on the principal amounts would be substantially higher. And if you compare it through to the liquidation value of those assets, it is almost 162%, 163% of the liquidation value where the realization through CIRP. So this by itself, these are very impressive statistics. But what one important thing that should be considered is how many of the cases or insolvencies have been avoided because of in this as an impact of IBC. So
Oh,
there are studies and there are statistics available which indicate that almost 10 lakh crore of insolvencies or NPAs have been avoided. Settlements have happened prior to admission in IBC. Almost 28,000 cases have been actually withdrawn before they get admitted. So the impact, of IBC is quite wide. And again, I must reiterate that IBC is not a recovery tool. It is not a realization tool. It is a revival. It is meant for revival of businesses, reallocation
yeah.
of economic forces. So one should not just consider and look at the recovery rates, while I do understand that it's an important metric.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir. And sir, before we move to the that question answer session, one more the last thing, sir. As on date, what is the corporate debt equity ratio? That post implementation of IBC
So,
corporate debt ratio. Sir.
you know, I I do not have exact numbers of what the corporate debt equity ratio would be pre and post IBC. But what I can tell you for sure is, the average debt equity ratio of Indian companies has actually shown a sharp decline. And this is because of two reasons. One is a much more cautious approach by the corporates on borrowings. There's a lot of emphasis on strengthening their own balance sheets. There's no more, rampant borrowing that one had seen in the past, which may be disassociated or not proportionate to what the actual project, one was planning to get down to. Also, there's a lot of improved financial discipline. I think this is something which is led to an improvement in the balance sheets, the debt equity ratio of companies, and this even the banks, have become a lot more. The whole lending practices have improved sharply, right? They have a conservative stand. They're analyzing the applications, the loan applications much closer. The credit assessment is stronger. So the debt equity ratio is certainly on a decline, and which actually means that the balance sheets are stronger, and India is ready for the great big push towards the Viksit Bharat in 2047.
Exactly. Exactly. And this 10 trillion is a collection is a remarkable job, no doubt in it. That is
Absolutely.
there. I you, sir. So great. And sir, just one more thing. And regarding the bad bank, regarding the bad bank. So how for the implementation, that is effective if you.
So, the bad bank, or this is the national NARCL, as we call it in short, National Asset Reconstruction Company Limited. There are a lot of good reasons why this was brought into place. And while initially it took some time to get off the ground, there were some challenges while the company was incorporated as way back as 2021, but the actual operationalization and effectiveness was seen only in the last, I would say, 12 to 24 months is where we started seeing the impact of this. So almost 2 lakh crore of NPAs have actually been transferred by public sector banks, and this is even some of the large cases within this March I know are happening, and this number will probably improve. The bad bank was formed with the government guarantee of almost 30,000 crores towards the security receipts. And the idea was to clean up the bank's balance sheets, let them focus on lending, let them focus on growth, whereas the bad bank, along with the debt resolution company, in conjunction with them, would actually look after the resolution and of all these debts. So I think, as a result of this, the gross NPAs in the bank's books have sharply reduced. But now will be the time when the NARCL and the IDRCL need to together, address those cases. Some of those cases have already started happening. We have seen 2-3 sort of resolutions by way of restructuring already taken place through NARCL. The decision making becomes much faster because the debt is consolidated in one place. So instead of multiple banks, multiple people, multiple representatives coming together to try and decide on particular issues of restructuring or any CRP, even if it's a CRP process, impact the all decision becoming centralized would really become much quicker, and that would also improve the pace of resolutions. So in my view, I think it's a very positive impact from NARCL, but the actual work for them actually starts now. They have accumulated and they have taken over a lot of debt, as I mentioned, more than 2 lakh crore. Now is the time for them to start resolving some of this.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir, for your enlighten us regarding the IBC in the nitty-gritty of the act and the provisions, and highlighting particularly that the revival and the resolution perspective and the that enhancement of that creditors uh, perspective, and also that our the, that the totally from the banking perspective and the collect recovery is concerned, 10 trillion is collected. That is also there. So that is the huge impact, in our macroeconomy and overall our Indian economic perspective, and that is there. So we can open the floor for the question answer session. Just let me, sir.
Sure. So is it going to be through some chat box or you're going to pose the question to me? Do we have any questions from the audience? I can see one question here, which is how effective is the NCLT? As I was mentioning a little while earlier, that NCLAT has been faced with a lot of criticism for delays, and I personally do not subscribe to that and agree to that. I feel that yes, there could be some improvements, but if you look at the quantum, you know, there are about 16 benches and 31 judicial and technical members in NCLT. Almost, they have dealt with 35,000 cases in this period of time. It's not a small number when you talk about, and if you are familiar with the process, how it runs in any of these courts, there are applications and there are notices and there are hearings, pleadings, there's, rejoinders filed, and just the sheer amount of time everything takes, because everyone has a right to justice. So the number of cases which have been resolved is actually, you know, very impressive. And yes, if some of the procedural matters could be removed, some of the frivolous applications could be, you know, dealt with more strongly, I feel this could really improve. There is, you know, even in the latest union budget, we heard that, you know, our government plans to increase the strength and the infrastructure of all these NCLTs and the appellate tribunals, which will go further and a long way to resolve. But all in all, I feel that the NCLT and NCLAT have done a fairly decent job given the constraints that they face. And I have been to a few of these NCLTs. Let me tell you, it's not easy. You know how, and you know, in the infrastructure that they are functioning in.
Right. Any other question in the box? Any
Shipping
other question?
lines. Yeah, there's a question I can see here. Shipping lines by government under the new budget. Sorry, I don't fully understand the question. Shipping lines, I think, I don't know whether you're referring to some amendments that were brought in IBC, you know, with respect to movable assets like aircrafts. I'm not sure whether that is the question, but you know, there have been some changes proposed to make it easier for the global financiers, which finance such, you know, movable assets like aircrafts, to help them in ease of repossession, and you know, improving the credit score of the country, which was earlier restricted. You know, prior to the amendment, there were some challenges around that, which is actually quite beneficial for the country as a whole. For specific companies, it may be a challenge, but if you look at the macro economy, for example, in the aviation sector, India is going to be importing more than 1,400 passenger aircrafts, civilian aircrafts over the next 4 or 5 years. And most of this are being financed through international financiers. Even a 1% increase in the cost of borrowing has a huge impact on the country's, you know, balance of payments
Exactly.
and foreign exchange reserves. So there are some, you know, changes that have been brought recently to address that. So yeah, I think positive in my view.
Right. So I think so. Giving a number of question, I think we have answered. I think all. Is there anything left, sir? I do not think.
No, I don't see any more questions. So probably, yeah, we can
Right. So
conclude the session.
thank you, sir. That IBC is basically in the conclusion. I can um, that opine that regarding this being the bridging between the our that Sunday daters and the Sunday creator. There's been the good relationship built up through the that mechanism of IBC provisions, and IBC has significantly improved that the credit culture of our country. So thank you, sir, for your that great that words of wisdom, I should say, and the enlightening us regarding the whole that IBC profile, I should say, in a very short time frame over the span of 25 minutes. So, and you have visited also some of the sectors also, and particularly in the conclusion in the aviation sector, the way you narrated. So thank you, sir. We are looking forward to hear you soon. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you for the opportunity.
And thanks for from our that Indian Chamber of Commerce. We thank you, sir. Your great deliberation indeed, sir. Here we
Thank you
conclude,
to
sir.
Indian
Thank you,
Channel
sir.
for the
Thank you.
opportunity. And
Thank
thank
you,
you
sir.
to the
Bye.
audience for taking the time. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.